Hello, 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 hello.
Why?
Well, I'm excited.
Okay.
Why not? I
Why?
just realised we're sort of colour coordinated. Again, this
We're
is not done on purpose.
This is definitely not colour
It's
coordinated.
brown and
this
purple.
is why we don't let
We're
men
like your
decorate their
favourite
houses.
brews, aren't we?
You don't. Brown and purple is not colour coordinated.
I think it is.
I'm coordinated with the sofa.
Gentlemen, let us know if brown and purple are perfectly acceptable coordination colours.
And I want to know how much Rubicon you did drink, or whatever it's called, because you're very hyper. Yes.
Maybe it's full of E-numbers.
Yeah, I think so. Look at the colour of it. Hang on. That's the colour of it.
Maybe it's made with mangoes, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
no, I doubt any mangoes were killed for this.
It makes elephants squiffy, so maybe.
I don't think any real mangoes were involved.
Oh, I'm sure they were. I'm sure they were. So who have we got here? Welcome to Mel and Margaret, to Tomo and Sarah, Jane and family. There we oh, as if. There we go. Look, perfect timing. Great to see you all. Thank you for joining us here for Heart of Hope. Yeah, it's very good.
We are in the heart of the week.
We are at the heart of the week here at Hope Church.
How are you all doing? How are you all doing? How are you doing? Let us know. Mel says that we look good to him, but what does he know? I think he means the colour coordination.
He knows a lot. He's a very wise man. He's a very wise man.
It's the reason that Margaret chooses the cushions. Oh dear.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy.
So yeah, I hope you're all well. I hope you're all doing okay, because it's been a really long time.
It has been a really long time, yeah.
It's been. Has it been 6 months? It's going to be 6 months by September. That's what I think I figured out.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Yes, 3 till 9. Yes.
It'll be 6 months since we had church in the middle of September. I think that's what I think that's where I counted it to. So that's a pretty long time. That's half a year. It's actually in that case gone quite quickly, I think, compared to, because it doesn't feel like 6 months. To me, it feels like 3 months, 3 or 4 months. But yeah,
a long time.
It has been. It's been a really long time.
Yeah, miss you guys. You get to see us, but we don't really get to see you. Hi, Iris. Good to have you here with us.
Awesome. So.
Oh, you saw some baby calves the other day, only 3 hours old.
Aww.
That's awesome.
That's amazing that you could see them, because don't the mummy cows want to keep them away from the humans? I don't know enough. I can I be honest, I'm scared of cows, so I steer clear of cows. I live in a part of Malmesbury called Cowbridge.
You should have thought that through, shouldn't you?
I really should have thought that through. But, so I tend to steer clear. If there are cows in the field, I don't walk in the field. No.
But you like sheep. You'd rather live in Sheepbridge, wouldn't you?
I love sheep. Yeah. Though I wouldn't take my dogs anywhere near sheep, because I don't want to be a sheep warrior.
No, not at all. Not at all. Well, this evening I was going to just talk very briefly about gardening. Because
he knows nothing about gardening.
Yes.
Oh, well done, Iris, for remembering it's Wednesday. Yeah. It is like that, isn't it? It really is.
It's like we're permanently in that time between Christmas and New Year.
Yeah.
When no one knows what day of the week it is. No one knows what's going on.
Yep.
Everything's funny on telly. There's no routine. And everyone's like, ugh.
I told Mark to put the bin out earlier. He's like, why? I'm like, because it's bin day.
Yeah.
Like, why not?
Which is very confusing.
So the cow was at the farm.
Mm-hmm.
Fair enough.
Very good. Thank you, Amelia. So, yes, want to talk about...
gardening, because he knows nothing about gardening.
So
I'm fascinated.
Gardening...
Because I know so little.
Has been a part of our life, and God's been talking to us about gardening. So I was going to share with you what God's been doing and saying through gardening, and your new friend, isn't it?
Monty.
Monty's your new friend.
Good old Monty.
Good old Monty.
Oh, other gardening magazines are available.
Yes, absolutely. So just to start, I've got some pictures here that I just wanted to show of some of the amazing things that Lydia's been doing in the garden.
It's true.
Yes, so there's where's Lydia gone? Anyway, so there we've got some a nice big hydrangea that I bought at Lidl's. That was a bargain for £5. And there's a tree there at the front. What's that called?
Acer.
It's an ace. Oh, ace. That's very good. So Those trees are quite good. Well done, Lydia. What else I got? Oh, so this.
That's a funny picture.
So this is the tomato plant.
Top down.
And yes, and I put together the thing it's climbing up. But you planted it.
No, you actually did plant the tomatoes. They were just put outside the neighbour's front door. They said, come and take tomatoes if you want them.
Community tomatoes.
They're community tomatoes. They haven't actually started growing any tomatoes. All the ladies love Monty. Oh dear, he's very calming, actually, I have to say. He's very calming. Oh dear.
Really good.
Are we reminding you of Laurel and Hardy? That's great. Yes, so
that's another fine mess.
Where are you going with the tomatoes? Are you going anywhere with the tomatoes?
No. But then here's, look at that lily.
Yeah.
That's great, isn't
Poisonous to dogs.
Is it?
Yep.
Oh, I read the label. He didn't say that.
Oh, well.
He just told children not to put their head in the bag.
It's okay. I think our dogs are fine.
They're not going to eat the lilies. No. But but this is one of the plants I wanted to tell you about. Now, this is a fascinating story that goes with this. I'm sure you can enjoy it, Lydia. You just have a little snooze. No one can see you for a few minutes. Hello. So, about 2 weeks ago, I don't know if you can see this little bowl. They've got this little plant. I call them succulents. They're probably not technically succulents because they're more like kind of alpines and rockery type plants. But in my head, I call them sort of succulents. They don't have leaves. They're just kind of fleshy. Anyway, so I'd been thinking, oh, I could really basically kind of growing something like that, maybe to make like a little, get some greenery in my office or something. And then it's like Google can read your mind, because it popped up on a website it said free course how to grow succulents. How did Google know? So free course how to grow succulents. Sign up here. So I signed up, and it was just run by B&Q or something like that. So for the next 5 days, I got all these emails about how to pick succulents and plant succulents and pot succulents. And I thought, I'll save all those somewhere interesting. And when I get a moment, I will get myself a bowl and some succulents, and I'll make a little thingy. And then the very next day, there's a knock at the door. And a lovely member of our church delivered this ready-made bowl of succulents saying, here you go, thank you. And I was like, blown away. So
she gave it to me.
Yeah. Well, remember your marriage vows.
Okay, we two are one.
Yeah. What's yours is mine. What's mine is mine.
It's okay. I think she'll be really glad that you enjoyed it. So.
Yeah. So, and that just really spoke to me that God's care and provision for us is about more than just our daily bread. He's a good father, and he wants to bless his children. And also, it's a reminder, I think, that for all of us, we are often the answer to each other's prayers. And just like we were talking about prophecy a couple of weeks ago on a couple of Sunday sermons, we should all be mindful and expecting to get that little nudge from the Holy Spirit every now and again, and to go with it, even if you think it's a crazy thing. I wonder what that church member thought when she had the idea shall I take some plants around to Mark and Lydia? Without actually realising that's something that we'd really been thinking about, specifically what it was that she brought it around.
Yeah. Actually, Mark was incredibly blessed by, I was as well. I was blessed anyway. I loved it anyway. But I didn't know that Mark had been on this thought process and receiving these emails and thinking about these sorts of plants. So,
yeah.
So I didn't know that. So I wasn't able to share that at the time when we were given the gift. But really lovely.
It was great. So I've got my my Gardener's Green Bible here, which I'll read in a second. Mel said that they did one once, but a blackbird decimated it within 2 weeks.
Oh, ours has done very well then. It's doing well. And I've kept it up and away from the dogs, because I know the dogs would pick up those they're like little roses, aren't they? The little kind of round bits. They
look a bit spiky, though.
Like cabbages.
Yeah.
That the dog would pick up and just walk off with.
I'll give that to you later.
So I don't put them on the ground; they're up high.
Yeah. So I'm just going to share with you a couple of things from the Bible. So we'll start off in Genesis chapter 2. Where's that? at the beginning, isn't it? Yeah, bound to be. So Genesis chapter 2, and it says this.
So you've got your green Bible.
Yeah, it's green and brown. You see, it's
gardening,
colour coordinated. I did.
It's gardening Bible.
My gardening Bible. So yes. So it said, yeah. So Genesis chapter 2, it says, the Lord God placed man in the Garden of Eden to tend and watch over it. Now here's interesting. So the Old Testament's written in Hebrew. So the Hebrew word for garden is gar. Yeah, sort of Gar, you pronounce it. So gar. And it just means an enclosed area. So God placed man in Gar Eden, yeah, the Garden of Eden. Gar Eden, garden. So our word garden literally means the Garden of Eden. So when we're gardening, we are going back to what God designed human beings to do, be in the Garden of Eden. I think we're all like, was that quote from Lord of the Rings? That we're like hobbits. We like peace and quiet and good tilled earth.
Okay.
And what else happened in Genesis chapter 3? And it says, after Adam and Eve ate from the tree that they weren't supposed to eat from, then they went and hid. It says, what, in verse 8? When the cool evening breezes were blowing, the man and his wife heard the Lord God walking about in the garden. So God likes to walk around in gardens. Okay, hold on to that thought. If we fast forward a few thousand years to, let's start in Nehemiah. Okay, so Nehemiah chapter 3. So if you remember, so Nehemiah was the chap who, when he discovered that Jerusalem was in ruins, he wanted to go back and rebuild the wall. So this is after Babylon had come and destroyed Jerusalem, or knocked down the walls and taken most of the nation back into a second kind of captivity in Babylon. But the king of Babylon had changed, and now they're starting to drift back to Jerusalem. And Nehemiah goes back and he wants to rebuild the walls of God's city of Jerusalem. And so he starts organizing people in sort of family groups to look after a certain piece of the wall of Jerusalem, start to rebuild it. And what does it say? Yes, so Nehemiah chapter 3, and it's just talking about, at verse 15, talking about some of the different families and where they were building. And it says, verse 15, the fountain gate was repaired by Shallum, the son of Kol-Hozes, the leader of the Mizpah district. He rebuilt it, he roofed it, he set it upon its doors, and he installed all the bolts and the bars. He was a handyman, wasn't he? And then he repaired the wall of the pool of Siloam near the king's garden. And he rebuilt the wall as far as the stairs that descend from the city of David. And next to him was Nehemiah, son of Azbuk, the leader of half the district, and he rebuilt the wall from the place across from the tombs of David's family. It's interesting then. So the bit of the wall that they're rebuilding is where the tombs of David's family were, which was in the king's garden. If we flip back to 2 Kings, you're wondering where I'm going with this, aren't you?
I really
am. You see, because in the ancient East, there was this strong correlation and idea that kings were gardeners. Okay, so often kings would be portrayed as being in their garden. Kings often had lush gardens associated with their palace. Now, part of that was a kind of a luxury thing, because in the hot Middle East, if you could afford a garden, if you get the water brought in, everything, it's a sign of real power. But also the fact that the king cared for the garden in the same way the king cared for the land. Yeah, if the rains didn't come, who do they blame? The king. If people weren't fed, who do they blame? the king. So the king was the gardener of the nation, and kings were gardeners as well. So kings were often portrayed as gardeners. And so another example of that is found in 2 Kings chapter 21. It's just talking about the sons of Hezekiah. Hezekiah was a good king. He had his son and his grandson were not good kings. They went away from God's rules. But it just kind of mentions at the end of chapter 21 of 2 Kings, it says, when Manasseh died, he was buried in the palace garden. And then his son Amon became the next king. Flip forward a couple of pages to the end of Amon's life, and it says 2 Kings chapter 21 verse 26. It says, and at the end of Amon's reign, he was buried in the tomb in the garden of Uzzah. And so you've got this connection between gardens and kingship. Now the Bible starts with God walking around in a garden, with Adam and Eve given care of a garden, with the responsibility of having dominion over the earth. So they were the rulers, and the rulers were in the garden. And as we go through the rest of the Old Testament, there's this connection between not only kings and gardens, but also kings get buried in gardens as well. Gospel of John chapter 20. One of those bits of the Bible that I now discovered I've been misreading it for the last couple of decades. John chapter 20, I'm sure you know this story, where Mary meets Jesus after he's been raised on the first Easter morning. John chapter 20 verse 11 says, Mary was standing outside the tomb crying, and as she wept, she stooped and she looked into the tomb, and she saw 2 white-robed angels, one sitting at the head and the other at the foot of the place where the body of Jesus had been lying. Dear woman, why are you crying? The angels asked. Because they have taken away my Lord, she replied, and I don't know where they have put him. And she turned to leave, and she saw someone standing there. It was Jesus, but she didn't recognize him. Dear woman, why are you crying? Jesus asked. Who are you looking for? And she thought he was the gardener. Sir, she said, if you've taken him away, tell me where you've put him, and I'll go and get him. Mary, Jesus said. She turned to him and she cried out, Rabboni, which is Hebrew for teacher. Now, how many times have you read this passage? And certainly, I've read it many, many times. And I've always wondered about, why did Mary not recognize Jesus? And we've come up with all kinds of sermons about people don't recognize when Jesus is acting in their life, and we kind of turn it into this kind of apologetic, sort of evangelistic passage. But I think Mary not recognizing Jesus is not at all the important part of this bit of the story. The important part of this bit of the story was Mary thought he was the gardener, because God hangs around in gardens. Kings live in gardens. Kings get buried in gardens. And so when John is writing his gospel, he makes this connection between Jesus and the gardener. All of his Jewish Middle Eastern readers will go, gardener, king, gardens, God, Garden of Eden. Oh yeah, Jesus. He's connected to all of those things. And so actually, Mary seeing Jesus as the gardener is about seeing Jesus as God and Jesus as King and Jesus as Messiah. It's a reconfirmation of who Jesus' identity is there on the first resurrection Sunday. He is the God King who was buried in the garden, like all kings were, including King David, because he's of King David's line, but he's the one who came back to life again. And that is all about gardens and Jesus.
Thank you.
I thought that was so cool when I learned that. Yeah. So I just wanted to share it with you.
It is cool. I'm glad my manic digging in the garden has made it possible and got you interested and made you go on a funny little tour.
I'm very
of the
interested
Bible.
in watching you dig in the garden.
Yeah.
No, I'm quite into it now, actually. I quite like going out sitting and having my coffee in the morning and reading my Bible. It's nice. Well, that's obviously what it is. It's this kind of deep spiritual connection with where we're supposed to be, in the garden with God.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have nothing to add.
No, we're done now. So I hope you enjoy that. Hi, Emily. Glad you could join us this evening. So that's all that we've got to share tonight. Don't forget, tomorrow evening at 8 o'clock, we've got the Shalom Show. And don't forget, I wonder if I've got the little thingy here. I'll put up the email address for the Shalom Show. Hold on. I can press a button here. I know what I'm doing. There we go. Excellent. Oh, I love the flowers, Iris. Thank you. Excellent. Well, God bless you, church. It's
no sound.
Oh no, it seems to be.
Okay, just you then. You've hit mute.
Yeah, maybe. It's clicking away. Oh well, we'll stop now anyway.
Lost sound.
Oh,
okay, bye bye.
Must be us. We'll say goodbye.